Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of Quarantine Stream. As you know, during the lockdown, we come to you with our daily live streams at 7 p.m. With a special guest. Tonight, we have another special guest with us. We have Zubi, rapper, podcaster, author. He does fitness. There's a lot of things that he does. So let's go to Zubi and introduce him. Hello, Zubi. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, man. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. You do a lot of things. Is there anything you can't do?
I'm not great at ice skating nor skiing.
Oh, really? Ice skating isn't hard.
So yeah, yeah, I don't really like frozen water. Seems to be the problem. Normal water's okay. I'm a good swimmer, but yeah, once you freeze it, not a big fan.
Yeah, fair enough. How are you handling the lockdown with everything? Are you bored yet, or are you busy?
I'm extremely busy. I've got so much stuff to do. I'm working on a brand new social media course actually,
Hmm.
which is going to help a lot of people. Anyone who's looking to grow on Twitter and really know how to build a good following and make money from it and everything. I'm working on all that right now. I've also got a new single, which I've written and recorded, which is going to be coming out in a few weeks' time. I'm hoping to shoot a music video for it next week,
Oh wow.
despite the lockdown.
Yeah, how's that gonna go?
And we might be a bit limited in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've knocked out. Man, I mean, this is my third interview of the day. I've done like
Wow.
dozens of podcasts. I'm staying busy, man. This thing's not slowing me down in the slightest.
Well, fair
So
enough. Um,
for me personally, I'm more worried about other people than myself. Let's put it that
yeah,
way.
yeah. I mean, you keeping safe and healthy. But people who don't know, obviously, one of the things that Zubi does is a kind of a really successful and good podcast and talks about everything. The other thing, he's a rapper, but he's a clean rapper. If you want to describe that, because you don't really, your lyrics are not typical when it comes to the industry, right?
Yeah, I don't rap about guns, drugs, gangbanging,
Well, that's good.
women, hoes, and champagne popping. No, my music is a reflection of me. I don't even. Sometimes people ask me why I don't put profanity, why I don't swear in my rap, and it's like, well, I don't swear in real life, so I'm not going to suddenly go to the studio and turn into some studio gangster and start gangbanging and using words and saying I do things that I don't do in real life. Like I actually keep it real. Rappers like to say the word real, but a lot of them are very fake. So I keep it genuinely real. So, and in my music and in my overall message, I want to inspire people. There's a lot of negativity in the world. Everybody has a lot of potential that they're in most cases not really capitalizing on. There's so much opportunity out there. There's a lot of stuff to be grateful for. So I try to always be not try. I just am me. I'm just very authentic. I keep it real. I'm very honest, but I'm also an optimistic and positive person, not in sort of like a false, cheesy way or anything, but that's just who I am. And so that's naturally reflected in my music. So I'm glad I can inspire people through it.
Yeah, I mean, we always see you as obviously optimistic and more positive and just bringing everyone together. For some reason, you've kind of fallen into, you have some attacks from certain people for no
Hmm.
reason. You're not even controversial in that sense or political in that sense. But there's been obviously throughout the last couple of years or whatever, the political correctness side and the social justice warriors. Not all of them like what you say again, but it's not because you've said anything specifically. I guess you don't really. What's your opinion on
It, it's
political
it's
correctness in
because
general?
I obliterate the vast majority of their positions on everything that they stand for, and they don't like that, and they like it probably even less because they probably think in their deluded brains that I should be on their side. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think since over the last 10 years, especially the whole social justice warriors, the millennials came up, and it's nothing new. It always exists, especially at universities, especially during the
Mm,
'70s and '80s. But I think it's been magnified because of the social media and technology, and academia is now completely dominated by one side. And
yes.
there are a lot of people out there, and they're not necessarily right wing in that sense, but they are campaigning for free speech or against this sort of stuff. You're one of those. You don't really see yourself as left wing or right wing, right?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I'm more right leaning, to
Yeah,
be honest.
your
I've never,
conservatism is
I've
also yeah.
always been more right leaning,
Mhm.
like since I was a child. If you're gonna place me on the spectrum,
Yeah,
then I would fall in the right libertarian category.
yeah.
But I'm
Okay.
still relatively centrist, right? I'm not
Party political.
super.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't subscribe to one. political party or
Mm-hmm.
absolutely to one single philosophy.
Yeah.
And depending on where I am and what you're comparing to, this is why I don't really label myself. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people would call me a conservative. Some people might call me a libertarian. Some people might call me. I don't really care
Yeah.
what people want to call me, and I don't really label myself because lots of those terms they mean different things to different people. They mean different things in different countries, and they're all quite relative. I mean, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. My family background is from Nigeria,
Oh,
and across these different countries, my views don't change, but what I would be considered would change. So if I were in Saudi Arabia, I'd probably be considered a progressive
yeah.
or
Left
a
wing.
liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if I were in Nigeria, I'd still probably be considered quite liberal, moderate liberal. In the UK, I'm considered, to some people, I'm like pretty staunchly conservative, uh, given where we are right now in 2020,
Yeah.
because I'm not into any of the stuff has just gone way off down this way, and I'm kind of like, okay, there's very little there that I see that I can support. So some people would call me conservative, libertarian, whatever, man. I consider myself just a free thinker, an individual. Depending on the issue, depending on the policy, whatever, I'll form my own. There's a lot of stuff I don't really have a strong opinion on, but the stuff that I do, I've looked at both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about it. I've debated both with myself and with other people, and I've come to my own conclusion on certain issues. And I'm happy to voice them. I mean, I might be the only rapper in the entire country who is not who actually talks about socio-political stuff and who's not, a raging lefty. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just me, man. I'm just me. And my views really haven't changed that much over time.
Mm-hmm.
I've become a bit more libertarian, a bit more skeptical of government
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But that's about it. It's the same values that I kind of grew up with, and just generally what I believe in.
I will go back to talk about the whole kind of the libertarian as a mentality and being skeptical towards government. But it's not just government, because I'm a libertarian. I always say question everything and everyone, including yourself. We will go back to that. But in terms of, because you mentioned there's a lot of, especially like rappers and other musicians who come out every election and they get political, but they don't actually talk about policies or anything. They just basically start like insulting the other side or the other leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there's anyone, because you said you don't really get involved in that sense when it comes to like elections or politics. But I don't think they do
No, I
either.
don't.
They just shout and scream and swear.
Well, oftentimes they will want to look. Most young people are left leaning. Fact. Okay. In the UK, something like 75-80% of people under the age of 22 or something like that vote for Labor. Very similar thing with the Democrats in America. Most, as people get older, they tend to become more conservative, and or the world tends to become more liberal, so they end up being conservatives anyway. And so, look, if you're a musician, if you're in Hollywood, if you're an actor, an actress, you're a rapper, you're a singer, you're anyone who's trying to appeal to a young demographic, the cool thing to do is come out and say, yeah, I'm voting Labor, I'm backing Corbyn, and you'll get lots of cheers and people will jump up and down at the festivals or whatever. It doesn't matter whether or not you actually believe those things or not, but it's the comfortable position to take, right? I'm in the music world, and in the music world, it's almost assumed that everybody voted Remain. It's assumed that everyone votes Labor. It's just assumed. People just have these assumptions. You can go to a music conference and you can tell by the things people are saying that they just assume everybody in the room shares their exact opinions. And a large percentage of them do. And those who don't oftentimes keep them quiet. And I'm not in that camp. I'm in the question, I question things, and I'm one of those people who look like, I could be in a room and 200 people in the room could all disagree with me, and I won't change my position nor back down simply because I'm outnumbered. If people change my mind, then that's one thing. I'm happy to have my mind changed on essentially any issue. I think there's some that'll be very difficult to do it, but I'm open to that. I'm open to discussion, debate, challenge. I enjoy it. But I'm not a sheep, and I never have been. I'm not someone who just goes with the flow, or goes with whatever happens to be popular or trendy at the time or whatever, just so that I can be in the majority and I can get, little accolades and people can clap for me or whatever. Like it's just nonsense. Like I don't support all that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of refreshing, and it is quite rare and abnormal the way you are, because and I wish more people were like that in terms of, including myself. And I have been trying, because I used to be active. I used to be a member of the Conservative Party. Then I obviously became a kind of
Mm.
more independent, kind of liberal-leaning YouTuber. So I'm not really part of any party. It's quite liberating, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
I wish everybody
It should be.
approached politics in that sense, apart from the ones that are actually active as members.
Mm-mm.
If everyone is kind of tribalism, basically, is the biggest problem that we have, not just in the West but in the world. Do you have any view on kind of
Sure.
how tribalism could be dangerous?
Tribalism is inherent to human nature,
Yeah.
and it's not inherently good nor bad. It's just sort of part of who we are. And this dynamic can go from everything, right? We can be tribal about families, communities, countries. For some people, in certain cases, it can be races, ethnicities, our gender, our sexuality, what sports team you like, what music you're into, whatever. Human beings are all we're all tribal. Any of us can be considered to be in multiple tribes, multiple communities, etc. And on the plus side, that's fine because that creates a sense of belonging and
Security.
commonality and a desire to support each other and help each other out, right? If I feel like, you know what, I'm British, you're British, like we're all British, so let's help out our other people. You can go up another level and go, you know what, we're all human. We're all part of the human tribe. Let's help each other out. Let's support each other and let's not harm, steal, kill from each other, etc. The problem with the problem with tribalism is how it manifests. So there's nothing wrong. Here's an analogy, right? If you imagine a sports game, okay, you've got a football match. This team, these group of people in red, they like Manchester United. These people in blue, they like Manchester City, okay? If the tribalism is we cheer for our team, you cheer for your team, the game is played, one team wins, one team loses, we shake hands at the end and we go home and we can all be mates, that's fine. But if you look at the extremists and you look what you got football hooliganism, right? Where people will literally beat each other up or even kill each other because they support a different football team. Like think of how stupid that is. Right? Like really think of how dumb that whole concept is. You're not even in the team. You just support them. You like right. It's such a ridiculous concept, but I think it's a great example of like what you could call sort of like normal healthy tribalism where it's all fun and games and a sense of community versus like a very toxic, negative, violent, dangerous version of it. You see the same thing. It's happened all over. At extreme ends, that's where you end up with racial or ethnic genocides and things like that, or when you end up with wars or religious battles or whatever the thing might be. Human beings always have. So tribalism can be, I think it can be harnessed very well, but when it's not, the problem with it is it always to create an in-group, you have to have an out-group. So if you're going to say, okay, this is our tribe, you can't really have a tribe if everybody and everything can be in it. So if you're going to say, okay, this is our tribe, this is our group, whatever it's based around, then part of your identity is sort of the fact that it's somewhat exclusive, right? Not everybody can be British, right? You can have 65 million people are British, but not everybody can be British. No, you guys are French. You guys are American. You guys are whatever. So I think it really depends on how it manifests. But I think that a lot of large scale and collective good and evil does happen along tribal lines. So it's something that we just always need to be conscious of, that we all have it within us and make sure that it manifests in a good way.
I think, I also see it as in terms of humanity. We have both sides in terms of the tribal side because it creates a security. It goes back to obviously the caveman days and, when you're born because of, your parents and everything. It's about security and we feel safer. And we still have the other side of us as humans is the individualism, which kind of less security, but it's more liberating and more adventurous. And I think when we feel kind of fear, we go back to tribalism, and it's happened even in politics. The movements that kind of start. Usually, it's like that, whether left or right. And when things are good, then again, young people you were talking about, especially in the West, things are generally okay. And in the name of liberalism and liberating, they all got together and created a cult. Basically, that's also another tribe. It was just kind of ironic. God knows how.
It's weird. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I mean, human beings are the most complicated thing in the world, and we're even more complicated when you put us in groups. You know, you can always see psychology, whether you study it or just look anecdotally, you can clearly see that the way people behave as individuals is a very different way to how they behave when they are in a group. And it's just one of those very interesting things. And one thing I find fascinating about human psychology is, given how long we've kind of been knocking around for, is sort of how little we really understand it all. You know, I was thinking just this morning, I can't remember why I was even thinking. I have, my brain is like hyperactive.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, it's amazing. I mean, the average man has a very poor understanding of women in general. And the average woman has a very poor understanding of men in general. And we've been around for thousands of years. Why is that the case? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't still be some huge mystery. Like, it's amazing that we're even able to reproduce. It's like, how?
Yeah, how do they get along?
You'd think by now it would be quite rare to have like a man or a woman who's totally clueless about the opposite sex. But it's almost maybe not, I wouldn't go as far as clueless, but the ways that the different ways we communicate, you know, different desires, the differences and stuff. It's like there's still such a gap in understanding and empathy. And it's odd that, like after how many generations that is still the case. You'd think by now we'd be like, okay, cool. We've mastered all this other stuff. So, okay, so what's the deal with, you know, like, what's the deal with that? Why can't we kind of just work this out?
I think it's because when it comes to men and women, and there are other examples like this, you know, centuries and, you know, millennials that we still don't know how to kind of get along or understand, is because humans, again, we are fascinating creatures because you know, we got the intelligence side, but we are primarily run by irrationality. But we try to rationalize when it gets too far. But that's exactly why we never learn from mistakes most of the time. And again, like, you know, even when it comes to, for example, tribalism, it's actual tribes, but irrational tribalism, for example, ideological tribalism exists now. During this health crisis that's going around, I've seen various sides, the political side, ideologically, writing similar articles but changing the actual name. So some people, the nationalist side, say, during this crisis, we're all nationalists. Libertarians write, during this crisis, we're all libertarians. What are we? Are we nationalists, libertarian, conservative, liberal?
And this is the thing, you know, people like labels too. That's a funny thing. It's weird. One thing I've noticed over the past 18 months in particular is people always want me to label myself. You know, people want me to, so that they can mentally sort of fit me in a box. And I can tell sometimes people get frustrated when I don't really want to do it. And it's not because I think any of these things are bad. It's because, one, people have biases and prejudices. So depending on what someone's biases and prejudices are, they will make certain judgments or assumptions about anybody depending on what label they put on them. Okay. So if someone has a negative view of conservatives or a negative view of liberals, and I say, yeah, I'm liberal. Okay. Then some people are automatically like, oh gosh, like he's going to be like this. Or if I say, yeah, I'm a conservative, some people will be like, okay, he's going to be like this. And they have these certain expectations and they don't sort of judge and assess things fairly from that point on. If someone has a real, say you take one of these, super lefty SJW progressive types who truly in their brain has established that conservative equals evil, right? That's what they believe. They've been told conservatives are racist, conservatives are xenophobic, they're evil, they're homophobic, they hate people, they want everybody to die, they want to cut all funding to everything so everybody dies. That's what some people have convinced in their brains. It's wrong, but it's what they believe. So if I meet someone like that and I say I'm a conservative, then immediately they're on guard. Right. Just like if they tell me that they're a progressive or they're a socialist, in my brain I have certain assumptions about that, right? I'm going to be like, oh gosh, like, is he going to be one of these pronoun enforcer peoples? So You see what I mean? So that's a part of why I'm not a big fan of labels. And also, I think it encourages, it sort of makes it harder to think freely because, look, I think any reasonable person will probably have some combination of views that are a mix of different things on the spectrum in certain ways. Okay. So I don't think I'm somebody who, if you know my view on one thing,
Mhm.
you can assume all of the rest with 100% accuracy.
Mm.
Um, and when people are like that, it's sometimes it could be, those could be their legitimate views, but often it's because they've sort of fallen into this false binary.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because in most countries, certainly in the UK, in the USA, you only have two main political parties.
Yeah.
So theoretically, the UK is a little bit better, but say in the US, you've just got Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
And you have 330 million Americans. So you're supposed to tell me that 330 million people's social, political, cultural,
Yeah.
family views and values
Has to go to
are
two.
supposed to be 100% embodied in one of these two things. And like that's not real.
Mm.
That's actually like a legitimate social construct.
Yeah.
So and people feel pressured and forced
Hmm.
to fall into one of them. So if you're a Republican, then you're pressured in a lot of ways to not accept anything from the other side.
Mm.
So even if they have a good idea, even if there's something that you agree with
Right.
or a policy you agree with, you're almost like you're incentivized and almost forced to stick with it. Maybe the Republicans, maybe you agree with them on 80% of stuff,
Mm.
but like there's 20% and you're like, no, like I really don't stand for this. And you're almost sort of forced to adopt that and not deviate from it, and same on the other side. You see this manifest in real life. It's the same. It's the way, I mean, and you're very aware. I'm sure you've noticed this. The way that no matter what Trump does, people feel they have to go against it. It doesn't matter what it is. He could come out tomorrow and say that oxygen is great, and they will hold their breath. You know,
Yeah, we've seen
like
at
it
his
doesn't.
State of Union speech, especially this year, where the
Yeah.
whole speech was all the good things that people on the left should like and clap. And the Democrats were just like ignoring it. They were like, he was like,
No.
so I'm giving free money to everyone. They're like, nope. I'm like,
Low black unemployment, and they're
yeah,
just
nope.
like, no matter what. This is the thing, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's silly, and it's like, how are you supposed to get stuff done if that is the way it is? I mean, it is ridiculous. Like I've even almost sort of tested people on this. Like if I know someone has like a severe case of I like playing around with people who have a Trump derangement system. Sorry, Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, because they're just easy to mess around with. And it's funny because no matter what positive thing you say about Trump, even if it's just like a fact, right? You just take, okay, this was done. They will find some way to twist it to be a negative. Okay. So if you're like, okay, if someone is like, oh, well, he's racist, he's this, he's that, he's like, what's he ever done for black people? And I'm like, okay, well, he restored $250 million a year funding to historically black colleges in America. And they'll say, oh, well, they'll either say something like, oh, well, only 250 million. That's not much. That's nothing. Or they'll say, oh, well, he only did that because he's trying to hide his racism. He's trying to use that as a cover. That's why he's doing prison reform and, releasing well, that's why he's released several black men and women and people of other races from the prison system for nonviolent crimes because he secretly hates them. You see, and it's like they just do this weird mental gymnastics. It's like they can't just go, okay, fair enough, yeah, fair enough. Okay, I like he did that. I don't like that. I like he did that. I don't like that. That's the sign of someone who's being fair
Yeah.
and being reasonable.
And one of the you're right, and I think that one of the biggest factors in this is actually the media, and I've seen it so many times when the
Yes.
media don't help when it comes to magnifying whether it's again tribalism or crazy taking sides, or because you said in America you got two sides, it's like a football team, and you have to pick
Hmm.
one. And the American media has actually been worse than here in terms of
Oh yeah.
sensationalizing everything. Is there a way to fix that or get the media to just calm down a bit?
Sorry, say that again.
Is there a way to kind of not to force the media, but I don't know, create new media or good people involved with mainstream media
Oh
to
boy.
run them better. I know they go after ranking, which is money, and that's what it is. And people actually like these tribalist fights, and they like the whole drama of like Joe Biden and Trump saying interesting things about themselves, each other, instead of talking about policies. But
Yeah.
is it our fault? Is it the culture? Is it the people actually craving this sort of media, or is it the media creating a propaganda?
It's complicated. Some of it is just driven by technology and economics. So, one of the big problems with the media is that now so much stuff is internet based, meaning that it's ad revenue based, which means that they are paid for clicks and views. Everything is now driven by clicks and views. And as a YouTuber, you understand the potential downfall of that because you know what clickbait is.
Oh yeah, and you could say something really bad.
Yeah, exactly. So they know that people just see headlines.
Yeah.
And they know that for everyone who sees a headline, maybe like 30% of them will even read the entire article. If that, it's probably less than that.
Yeah.
What people will do is they'll see the headline and it'll be sensationalist. And then they'll go on Facebook or they'll go on Twitter and they will repost that on their account. And if they're one of these, blue check mark journalists or whatever on Twitter with thousands of people following, that gets retweeted. And within 30 minutes, you have a headline that is totally misleading, which is being spread around. And now people are talking about something that didn't actually happen or that was not stated in a clear way. So let me give you a great example. So a couple of weeks earlier this year, I suddenly had people, my background is originally from Nigeria. I suddenly had a few people saying, "Oh, what do you think about Donald Trump banning Nigerians from America?" Okay, this is the first. So I'm like, okay. So that was the first thing I heard. I had like 2 or 3 people ask me saying this thing about banning Nigerians from America, and I'm like, okay. Like I'm naturally skeptical, and I'm like, okay, I doubt he did that, but I do do my Google search, and I see a few headlines saying Nigeria travel ban is the term used, travel ban, and I click on the article and I read it. And it turns out that what has happened is that they have increased some of the restrictions on certain long-term visas for Nigerian travelers. And no, Nigerians can still travel to, and it was done for certain security issues because certain criteria were not being met. Nigerians can still travel to America, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a great example of how just some nonsense within a couple of hours. It's like Chinese whispers, but it's like high speed. And people have now bought into this idea. And once people have bought into this idea, even if they went and changed, how they now change headlines even if they now go and change the headline, the damage has already been done. And this is the problem. The problem is this clickbait stuff where people are just reading headlines. And that is now how the financial reward model is set up. So it's a perverse incentive model. And that model needs to be changed, or they sort of need to be starved of money for stuff to change. Because in terms of addressing the biases, look, the big problem, the whole idea of a blind spot is you can't see your own blind spot. That's actually why diversity of opinion is important. Because if you only have, if you have a media organization and everyone votes the same way and believes in the same things, even if they look different and have different sexualities, no one cares. So they think they have diversity, but they don't, because they will have certain blind spots and biases that they're not even aware of. So it is entirely possible that the people at CNN truly think that they are in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? They may legitimately think that they are unbiased and that they are fair and that they are totally reasonable and whatever. But we know that they're not. But they may genuinely believe that, and they believe that because they're surrounded by other people who also believe that.
Chamber.
So their own, sorry?
It's an echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. It's an echo chamber. So they can't see their own blind spot.
Yeah.
And then when you combine that to what I said previously, that's a big part of the problem, I think.
Yeah, it is quite tough. Also, we have a lot of people in the comment section who I think they have a crush on you. They say, we love his voice. The way you speak, I think you're turning people on.
I haven't even looked at the comments.
No, it's
That's so
great.
funny.
But before we end it,
Should I
let's
open
end it on a more positive and happy note. Because we've been complaining about things, we've been talking about the negative stuff. What do we have to be happy about in terms of the future, especially after this crisis?
Oh man, there's so much to be happy about. There's so much to be happy about. I don't want anyone to think that I'm a negative dude, because I am absolutely not. Look, we've got so much to be grateful for. Firstly, I was saying this in a call I did earlier today, which is that if our ancestors, if your great 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 grandfather or great 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 grandmother could see how we're living right now and see what we're doing right now, they would think that they had died and gone to heaven, right? People are acting like we're in hell right now. Oh my gosh, we're on lockdown. There's this killer virus going around. Everything's horrible. This is the doomsday. This is our World War II. Chill. Chill. If this is our World War II, we are truly the softest generation, because people are just sitting around in their pants and playing video games and watching Netflix and we're not getting bombed. None of us are fighting against the Nazis.
If you don't want to
We're not
die,
getting
just wash your
shipped off.
hands. That's all you have to do.
We're not getting shipped off anywhere. So in the midst of all this, it's important to always maintain a sense of perspective and a sense of gratitude, because things could be so much better. And even when things are not perfect or not ideal like they are now, we still have a lot to be grateful for. If you're even able to watch this video and listen to it, then trust me, you are blessed, you are privileged, and you should always be grateful for that.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who joined tonight. And I'm going to go, obviously, after this, read all the comments and respond to them. And if there's any question, we'll definitely reply tomorrow. Obviously, as you know, the daily videos at 5:45 still remains, not going anywhere. And 7 p.m. every night, Quarantine Stream. We're going to have more special guests tomorrow and the next few days. We're not going anywhere until the lockdown is lifted. Before we go, where can people find you on Twitter? What's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter is @ZubyMusic, ZUBY Music.
Yeah.
So go follow me.
We'll probably put it on the screen as well, so we can have it. Yeah, definitely follow him. He already has enough followers, but let's just give him more.
No, we need more.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again for coming, and best of luck with everything. And hopefully we'll can catch up after the lockdown.
No doubt, man. Take care.